Thank you for joining us this morning. For those that, I know most of you do, but for those of you who don't, we've got Chris Lynn from Anchor Collection joining us from Northampton in UK until he can get back to New York, which hopefully sometime he'll be back in New York. And I wanted to introduce Fiona from ETC Venues that's based at the new property at 360 Madison Avenue. So I'm going to hand over to Fiona and Meaghan, who are going to present this morning. If you've got any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to put them in the chat box, and myself and Chris will monitor that and ask the questions. I am going to put everybody on mute just to make it easier sound wise, but at the end we'll unmute everybody and feel free to, please stay on, and if we've got any questions we can keep it discussion. So as you can see from this, it's not the formal webinar version. I'd rather keep it informal, and I wanted to see people and we wanted to be able to have a discussion. So Fiona, over to you. I am just going to do something quickly here to spotlight Fiona's video.
Now I can just see myself. Great.
There you go.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Well, hi everybody. Welcome to 360 Madison. I'm actually here in the venue today, as you can see behind me. Very exciting. We actually found out last week that we can now officially run events here in New York for up to 50 people. So yeah, it's good news. Things are moving forward, albeit slowly but surely. So first of all, I just wanted to kind of give people a little bit of a brief about Etc. Venues for those people who don't necessarily know much about us. So we are a UK-based company. We have 15 properties in the UK, so predominantly London. We've got one in Birmingham, one in Manchester. And then earlier this year, we actually opened our first property here in New York, which is 360 Madison. We did manage to actually host some events. So we hosted, I think there was a total of three actual client events before we had to unfortunately close the doors due to COVID. But just to kind of like a sense of who we are and what we do. So we are standalone conference venues, very much focused on, day meetings, conferences, exhibitions. All the venues in the UK range from your 5 boardroom up to 700 delegates in a theatre style. And that's very much the plan that we're looking to do here in the US. So we actually brought a team of 8 people across initially. Has slightly dwindled because people have had their head home due to COVID. But the idea is we basically picked up everything we do in the UK and we bring it here to New York City. So we have our AV built into the conference rooms. We have our own chefs on site. It's a very kind of like easy solution for conferences and events for planners. We don't have anything fixed in the venue, so we like to be very flexible with regards to the space. So as I mentioned, we can do exhibitions, we do evening events, we do dinners, you name it, we can do it. And I don't know if you can kind of see, it's a very kind of simple space in the sense that you can walk in and you can run your event and everything's there and included, or you can brand it however you want. So we very much like clients to brand the space. So we give you the option of doing, like, you can brand the columns, you can brand the floor. We have lighting features which will kind of adapt to clients' corporate colors. So lots of options there. We offer an all-inclusive day delegate package. So everything from room hire, all catering, so breakfast on arrival, unlimited teas, coffees, snacks throughout, which is all made by the chefs on site, hot and cold lunches, AV in the meeting room, so your screens, projectors, PA systems, Wi-Fi, that's all included in this day delegate package that we do per person. We are incredibly flexible with regards to like minimum numbers and things like that, especially moving forward in this environment. We, social distancing, we have to kind of reduce our capacities and, everyone gets a little bit more space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and show you a quick video that we have done, which is can everybody see?
Yes. Yep. Yep.
So this is just a quick kind of site visit of the space, rather than me trying to walk around with an iPad or a laptop wobbling. This is something we actually did earlier in the year. So let me just play this for you. Hi, I'm Fiona. Welcome to ETC Venues 360 Madison, our first venue in New York City. We've taken 2 floors of 360 Madison, the 4th floor and the 5th floor. Let's have a look. This is our 5th floor Galleria, our catering, exhibition and networking space. We have a lovely Artura ceiling here with colour changing lighting. And we have a 9-screen media wall for digital branding. This is the Enterprise Suite, 162 Half Moon Cabaret or 300 Theatre. AV built in, screens, projectors, PA system and microphones. We have an interconnecting staircase between the 2 floors, leading to the 4th floor Galleria. More branding opportunities with columns, lighting, and coffee points. When we say Half Moon Cabaret, we mean half a moon. We have Progress here, which is a breakout room or an extension of the networking and catering space. One of 2 fixed breakout rooms on the 5th floor. Thanks for joining me on a whistle-stop tour of ETC Venues 360 Madison. Come see it for yourself. Okay, so that hopefully gives you kind of an idea of the space here at 360 Madison. We have a second property which we will be opening to for sale for meeting space May 2021. So it feels like far away, but actually given how quickly this year has gone, I feel like it's just around the corner. And that is 601 Lexington. So it is in the old, for anybody who knows New York, it's the Citibank offices on 53rd and Lexington. And we have taken the 14th floor there, and we converted their old meeting conference space into meeting and conference space. So that'll be a little bit different from here. So that'll be a lot more meeting space. So anything from 5 boardroom up to 120 delegates. And again, the whole same kind of concept of AV built in, and the chefs on site do all the catering. So moving kind of on to now and where we're at. So we as a team have, we've put together an 18-point plan for obviously COVID and how we're dealing with the current situation. The key points for this is, you know, we're partnering with cleaning companies, making sure that cleanliness is, you know, that next step that we have to all consider right now. All the teams have been trained. We'll all be doing, when we start actually hosting events, it's going to be, we'll have teams in bubbles. So you just kind of, there's no kind of crossover in case anybody does get sick. We are adapting the space for social distancing. So as I mentioned, a lot of the rooms, you know, for example, here, the 300 Theatre with the 6-foot social distancing, that brings it down to about 78 delegates. We are hoping that things might actually change, and if it goes to 3 foot, then we can get, you know, a few more people in the space, but that's obviously, we'll bear with the government and what happens. Technology enhancements. So we have Meaghan on the call, which we'll jump to her in just a minute. So we have teamed up with Glisser to offer the hybrid solution, which we believe is going to be the way forward for conferences for the next sort of maybe 12 to 18 months, which means, so you've got the option of having people on site, but then the luxury of being able to dial people in virtually. And we just, for us, it's more about getting people back into meetings. And I know that, you know, we're all in the same industry. We're all desperate to do it. And I think people, when you see people in the street, for example, here now, it's getting busier. I come in like once or twice a week into the city, and I can certainly see the streets are getting busier and there's more people commuting in. I think people are getting more confident, but I think the key is the corporate companies kind of saying, yes, we can hold meetings. Yes, we're going to go ahead with that. And if you normally had 300 people at a conference, then, with the social distancing, we do 70, but you can still have 250 people join in virtually. So everybody still gets that same experience. In terms of food, so as I mentioned, we have chefs on site. So all our food will be touch-free. So we will do pre-packed salads, and then the chefs will always serve the hot food anyway. So nothing will change in that sense, other than the salads will be pre-packed, but the chefs are going to be serving the hot food. And we are going to be even more flexible with regards to, as I mentioned, our minimum numbers, but also our terms and conditions. So bearing in mind that, there's all this worry of like a second wave and things like that. So just kind of making sure that our terms and conditions reflect this, and mean that clients have that flexibility to move events further into the year where they feel comfortable to actually run the events.
Fiona,
yes.
Can I jump in and interject? I have a couple of questions. I thought we might as well tackle them while we're going.
Absolutely.
So the first question, you talked about, New York feeling a bit busier. So are you seeing bookings now that 50 people can gather in New York? And if so, what kind of events?
We've actually have a client. We've got 3 events coming up. So we've got one which is an education event. Well, actually, no, 2 of them are education events, which are hybrid events. And another one, we're actually working with a sporting company who are looking to run their town hall. So rather than having everybody come into the city, they're going to get the key people into the venue and do the hybrid option, and then the rest of their teams can dial in. Or for those people who don't feel comfortable. So we're seeing a lot more it tends to be more internal, I'd say, and a bit more training rather than the conference style just yet. But I think, like I said, time will tell, and we'll hopefully, as people pick up the confidence, then fingers crossed.
Great. And a second question, I love people getting straight to the detail. Just with regards to commission, what elements in booking with you are commissionable?
Yeah, so we offer commission on day delegate package, on room hire, and F&B. So everything other than AV is commissionable.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And just for a question of clarity, loving they're coming thick and fast. So just to clarify, 360 Madison will work with clients if we want to do a client lunch and learn, or happy hour and demos, with an attrition clause if we have a drop off.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we're open to anything at the moment. I mean, we're very much kind of like, looking outside the box. We're working with clients. We've got this space. It's fantastic space. It's a shame that we haven't been able to use it. So open to doing anything like that. So yeah.
Fantastic. Great. Okay, back over to you. Thank you.
I think I'm gonna jump over to Meaghan. If I can't see Meaghan, but if Meaghan is ready.
Yeah, I'm ready. I was just going to turn on the screen sharing, but it wasn't letting me. So I don't know if that's something on the host side you guys can help with.
Right, there we go.
Let's see. Yeah, it's still saying host is disabled screen sharing. I have a way to cheat if I need to, but if we could turn that on, it'd be. Hope it's not one of those annoying settings that needs to be done at like the point of setup.
Fiona, can I throw you another question while we're doing that?
Go for it, yeah.
Are you offering space for broadcast type events? For instance, taping and a broadcast of a panel discussion. Could you do a daily fee for that type of program?
Yeah, so I know I mentioned obviously we offer the day delegate package, but again, we will do just, we'll do a minimum spend, or we can do like a room hire. So yeah, it will be, we'll look at anything and everything, and we'll work to, budgets, we'll work to requirements, everything like that. And in terms of AV, so we do work with supplier NMR. However, we are also open to, clients, bringing in their own AV suppliers. We're not precious about anything like that. It's very much about, it's about the client and the customer's experience, and we want them to, to feel comfortable. We understand that a lot of people have their preferred suppliers, and we're more than happy to work alongside those.
Okay, great. And just one more question. With regards to hotel blocks, what do you have partnerships with hotels nearby, or just a recommended list? And examples of hotels that are on that list?
Yeah, of course. So we work as with a referral, basically, rather than necessarily a partnership for now. We were obviously building up those relationships, but things have fallen apart in terms of, there's nothing going on. But we're literally across the road from the Roosevelt Hotel. So we do everything from we recommend from 4 to 5 star. You've got the Palace just up the road. So we'll just send recommendations, and we've got our key contacts at those hotels that we would put clients in touch with.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, so here's how I'm thinking we can pull this off, Fiona. I've just sent you, I was just going to screen share a Glisser audience experience from something we did at that venue. And so if you don't mind, I just threw it in the chat. I think you can probably screen share because you're the host, and then I can kind of tell you what to click on if you don't mind. So while she's setting that up, I guess I'll give you a little background for those of you who don't know what Glisser is and sort of how we work with Fiona and crew here at ETC. Glisser is a virtual or a hybrid meeting engagement platform. So that's not to be confused with Zoom or a YouTube or a Vimeo. That those are ultimately kind of like the video or webcasting platforms that are behind a lot of these sort of engagements. We're ultimately the audience experience. So being able to pull in various audience members, regardless of where they are. Glisser, before all of this, was used 90% of the time in fully in-person meetings. So think about, you go to the meeting, you whip your cell phone out, you're taking part in live Q&A, live polling, surveys, things like that. So that was really how Glisser was used pre-COVID. That being said, since 2017, we've had the hybrid or virtual component of our product, which is quite simply the ability to embed a third-party video feed. Now, whether that's Zoom or BlueJeans or YouTube or Vimeo, there's a list of about 10 platforms we support. That's what ultimately allows Glisser to sort of work in both a hybrid, whether it's virtual or in-person environment. We were lucky to have that. We've had it since 2017. To us, and for most of our clients, it was just a kind of bonus feature we happen to have on our platform. Then come March, it's the core of our platform. So in the same breath that in room, you still would want to use a tool like Glisser. So having the members of the audience who walk through the doors at ETC, whip out their phone, grab the QR code, be able to take part in Q&A and polling. That's always kind of what we'll call a nice to have, if we're going to be honest. And then when everything went fully virtual, it became a need to have. So how do we engage our remote audience? And how do we make that audience experience fully virtual look good, be on brand, have engagement options, collect data, and be able to incorporate that video. So, if you want a screen share, I'm going to show you what that looks like. It is fully web-based, so nothing to download or install, right? You can just see, Fiona's in her, and you guys, by the way, can click on the link in your own time as well. I threw it in the chat for everyone, and you can actually have that audience experience right from, hey, here's my Glisser link, now what happens? You'll be asked to log in with some type of unique ID, which you set behind the scenes, and you'll see branding can pull through. So things like the background image, the logo, the specific colors we're seeing here. But at the end of the day, as an attendee, I click on the link, I'm taken to what we'd call the event landing page, which is something that looks like this. And we're then able to decide what sessions do I want to go to. So maybe at the venue, it's only one particular room or track that's being run, or maybe you're using the 4th and the 5th floor and you've got various sessions running concurrently. In the same way that if I'm physically there, I'm going to walk into a room. If I'm in Glisser, I'm going to click on which room I want to join. And so, if you want to click on agenda, I'm going to actually take us I'm going to plug Fiona and I here, and I'm going to go ahead and click that live masterclass down below. And you may need to mute it when you turn it on, just so we don't have double audio. But at the end of the day, when I, the attendee, select a session, this is what I'm taken to. A lot of pink. Didn't realize it was this pink. But what's happening there in the center is there's your video feed. And again, there's 10 different platforms we support, but at the end of the day, the hybrid element is actually way easier in my mind than fully virtual. In a hybrid world, you've got some type of on-site AV or production support, which are simply outputting a video feed to Glisser. It's a quick copy paste job to take it from the production team and pop it into the Glisser system. And so your audience is seeing that live video come through Glisser. But then the way to think about Glisser in more of a virtual world is the wrapper around the video. So things that you're losing out on if you're not actually physically there in person. So below the video, you've got, you know, the name of the session, you've got logos pulling through, you've got hyperlinks. So I think that book a demo probably takes you to the ETC page. You've got links to different sessions within the event. So maybe I'm in the 9 a.m. session in track 1, but I actually want to see what's going on down the hall. Glisser is going to be able to promote me to go there. In the top right-hand corner, this is where we get into the engagement bit. So if I'm in room, this whole section you see here, the far kind of 1/3 of the screen, that's what your in-person audience will have on their cell phone. The difference is they don't need the video, right? They're there. But what it's doing, it's just creating a consistent engaging experience between the in-room audience and the virtual audience, so they can see slides at the top. They can submit questions to the speaker. One of the things in Glisser is there's a certain content component to it. So it's not just slide sharing, it's actually, here are the slides, you can review them, but you can take notes on them and you can download them. So it's, again, creating a focus on potential content that you may want to share. There's a social element to it. We can pop a Twitter feed in here. I don't think we have any polls live in this one, but you can do live polling. And so in the same moment that I'm sitting in the room and the poll appears on my cell phone, if I'm joining from my home office, I'm getting that exact same poll. And all of the data, regardless of where you're physically answering these questions, is coming into the same feed. So when people kind of ask us, like, what's the core value, kind of main value props of Glisser, and I always try and boil it down to a couple of key things. These are going to be the same for the most part, whether you're in person or remote. And even more important when you're doing hybrid is going to be point 1, which is flexibility. When people are planning stuff, I mean, we don't know what the heck's going to happen in a couple of weeks from now. I mean, my colleagues in the UK woke up this morning and I don't know, they're complaining they can't go to the pub tonight or something. I don't quite know. I haven't had time to read what Boris did this morning, but rules are literally changing every day. And it's hard to keep up with them. And I think one of the main values between, and I think this is definitely something Fiona and I have seen in the partnership between our organizations, is we can speak to our clients about just having that flexibility. You don't know what's going to happen. So working with vendors that can support whether you can have 50 people in the room or 500 people in the room, and knowing we're still going to be able to support that virtual audience, or, you know, maybe people make a decision to go fully virtual, you know, having still the ETC venue being a part of that, in the sense that there's also a production team involved. So it just creates that kind of full circle experience. Flexibility is probably the #1 value point we're going to talk about here. But the other ones that are going to ring true are going to be branding. Maybe not this much pink, but you get the idea. So it's having that look and feel of when you walk in. You know, I know the venue right now isn't dressed up for a particular event, but of course, if you were to walk in, there'd be posters and banisters and things would be dressed up a certain way. And you know, how much you can do that to a virtual platform. Think about it. You really can't unless you're using a Glisser-like tool. So branding is key. Having that event structure where, you know, again, you can't walk in the room or go down the stairs to the 5th floor if you're joining from home. But in Glisser, you virtually can. You know, you can click in and go session to session and see the different speakers and hear them and take part. The next big one is going to be around the engagement, which has always been the Glisser sweet spot. That's always what we focused on, is creating an engaging audience experience. It's just the definition of what that is and why it matters and what it looks like has changed a little bit over time. But it's Q&A, it's polling, it's surveys, it's gamification, it's social, and bringing that into one kind of seamless experience. And then last but not least, and you're not going to be able to see this so much in a screen share of an audience experience, which is what we've got here, but it's the data behind it. You know, if you do like a Zoom meeting or something like that, or I don't know, just run something on YouTube Live, you're getting very, very basic data of how many attendees did I have? And if you're lucky, maybe you have the list of who those attendees were. What Glisser is really going to look at is more around how people engaged with you and using that data set. So from the time that they log in, you really know everything they did. What session did they attend? how did they answer this poll question? What questions did they submit? Did they take notes? Did they download? So you're getting that very granular data of someone's journey through a Glisser event. And then we're going to give you scoring. And the reason we released scoring about a year ago, because all of our clients were like, data, 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 give me data. And then none of them do a damn thing with any of it because it's like overwhelming. So for those who want to like go pivot table happy in the Excel sheet, like great, we've got that output for you. And then we also have very basic scoring, which is every session you run in Glisser on a scale of 1 to 100 is going to tell you how engaged your audience was within Glisser. And there's ultimately sort of the math and the algorithm behind the scene that's pulling all the different buttons you can click into that score. And then on a more granular basis, every attendee gets that. So flexibility, branding, and a virtual event structure, engagement, and data are going to always be the big talking points for Glisser. And I think, again, in terms of the sort of audience we have on the line here, I think that first one, which is the flexibility, whether it's hybrid in the sense that you're running a single meeting and some people are virtual and some are in person, hybrid in the sense that some of your meetings are virtual, some of them are remote, or some of them are live. And really being able to kind of cater to different people's wants as things change. I'm sure we all know this, like on our own sort of personal friend groups, right? You know, you have the folks who would be more than happy to go down the street to the pub and slam a few beers, and you have the people who won't leave their house. And it doesn't matter what the government does. I think that'll ease up over time. People will still have that sort of want to be able to choose what's comfortable for them. And I think, you know, ultimately the sort of partnership between, you know, Glisser and ETC provides that. You know, ETC is doing everything to make it a comfortable and a safe experience for those people who are comfortable doing that, but also making sure that your clients can cater to all of their audience, the people who maybe aren't comfortable walking through the door no matter what you do. So that is my Glisser spiel. I'm sorry, I've had a little too much coffee and I'm rattled through that rather quickly, but happy to take any questions. And I actually should mention this thing that we're looking at here is actually a virtual event we did feels like it was yesterday, but I think it was the end of July. And what it was is you can see the group that's on the phone or on the video right now, that's a panel group in London. So there were 4 panelists and a moderator up on stage in one of the ETC venues in London. And then at some point in a couple minutes, you'll see some familiar faces because they switched the video feed over to Fiona and I, and we were sitting, you know, 100 feet from where Fiona is now. And we were able to have what we'd call a multi-hub hybrid event. So not just hybrid, different types of audiences, but hybrid in the sense that we were running video feeds from different locations. So lots of flexibility, lots of fun and creative ways to do things. So I'm happy to take any questions anyone might have.
On that, like you mentioned the hybrid hub, I think like obviously in New York, we've got people right now who are all over the US. And I think New York, like London, New York's a very good kind of like central point for that kind of catching like the West Coast and catching the UK still within like that same time zone. So yeah. Oh, Cheryl, I just
as I say, feel free to unmute yourselves and ask any questions if you've got questions for Meaghan or Fiona. Meaghan, that was great. I thought that was really a great demonstration and a great explanation of hybrid events, because I think there's still a lot of, is it hybrid, is it virtual, what's the difference, and how can you do it without, I mean, I know a big question a lot of the time is it going to be really expensive to do it if we're doing it virtually or hybrid? So I think you guys offer a really good solution for that.
Yeah, and Meaghan, there's been a, just in the chat box, definitely a popular request to get more information on Glisser, kind of in general. And then I do have some requests already for you, Fiona, too. So don't feel left out. You're both getting.
We're a team. It's fine.
Yeah.
I'm making a note. I'm going to send all my requests in pink writing to Meaghan.
I don't think that was our branding. We are obnoxiously black and orange.
Oh, that's
No, that's
ETC.
Except the venues were pink.
Yeah.
We've toned it down a lot. It used to be very pink, but we've toned it down. But they obviously went all
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. You know, the nice thing with ETC venues is they're really good at coming up with some great marketing as well. Hence the swap Zoom for a room and do the hybrid option. So hopefully everybody found that useful this morning. On
we have another question, if I can jump in. So with regards to so for Glisser in filtering, when you're searching for like-minded attendees or companies, which has become an important feature, how in depth can you filter on Glisser?
Can you elaborate a bit on what you mean by filtering? I mean, I see the question that's posted here, but I'm just trying to understand what you're filtering for, kind of where within Glisser you're filtering.
Karen, would you mind jumping in to clarify your question?
Oh, I think you're on mute, Karen.
There we go. Sorry. Hi.
Hey.
Okay. For my clients who are in the automotive industry, one of the things that they want to do is network, which is huge, obviously, in virtual events. And so the filtering options in trying to find people that are like-minded in the various topics that are being offered during the event seems to be really important. And people also want to know what companies there are, so and what industry they're in. You know, typically when you are filling out your paperwork for or the online application for the IBTMs or IMEX or whatever, it always asks you, you know, what hotels. Do you want hotels? Do you want CVBs? Do you want transportation and that kind of thing? So in my case, you know, the participant type is very important. For instance, are they a startup company? Are they an investor? Are they in the industry? Are they government? And then they filter down into interests. So are they doing, you know, EV? Are they doing mobility? Are they doing traffic management, logistics? Are they doing in-vehicle infotainment? Are they doing sensors, things like that? Then we get to the companies. So it's really a deep dive into who is actually participating as an attendee in the event. And my event actually is 5 days virtual event. I've already started drinking, by the way.
I hope it's not a 9-to-5-er for 5 days.
It is.
Oh God, no one's paying any attention.
It's actually mostly European time because most of the automakers are in Europe. So it's, yeah, it's very early and late nights for me because we also have Asia time we have to follow. So, so that's what I was asking, is that how much filtering can you do within Glisser?
Yeah.
You know,
so you want the good news or the bad news first?
Doesn't matter.
So I should clarify, and I recognize that when we sort of use the terminology sort of engagement platform, that can often mean different things to different folks. So ultimately, when I use the term engagement, it's more around the engagement of attendee to speaker, organizer, and sort of the reverse of that. What it's not is attendee to attendee. Yeah. So that being said, so we do not have what I'd call any kind of built-in attendee to attendee networking. So I guess I gave you the bad news. So here's the good news. Depending on what you're trying to accomplish, we do have different sort of recommended paths. So one, if you're really looking for a good sort of networking tool within a platform, we'd probably point you to partners of ours at like Brella or Grip, which is what they were doing pre-COVID and they're really good at. And quite truthfully, back in about April, we had to look at our product roadmap and decide what were we going to build, what we're going to partner on, what were we just going to ignore. And that one was a hot topic, right? Networking. And we ultimately made the decision to partner, not to build. Next year, that might change, but for the time being, we'll point people towards those partners. If you're purely looking at it from more like a data collection standpoint, which is different from networking, but to collect the type of data you were just running through, we would recommend people use, we do have something called, it's just a data capture form, or truthfully, you could even use polling to do it to an extent, where you can ask questions of your audience, where you can gather that type of data, and then you as the organizer or your client has access to that data in Glisser Analytics. So you can actually view all of the participants, and then maybe you ask them 5 open text questions or 5 multiple choice questions, and then you can gather that data and sort of filter from there. But I think it's a little different than what you were asking, but I did just want to point out there's a data capture element, but that's not specific to networking within the platform.
Okay. Yeah, that is very different than what we need, because our attendees networking is very important. The other thing is that I had to find a platform that has a trade show element. A lot of them don't. A lot of them are really expensive. But I happened to find one for my next virtual event. And so, you know, we're going to have a trade show. We're going to have booths, and they're going to have videos, and they'll be able to have one-on-one meetings. And so that's very important as well. So in the context of doing meetings, maybe in different industries, Glisser works really great. For my just automotive purpose, no, it probably wouldn't satisfy what everybody or the board of directors is really looking for. So
Yeah, and I think
that's okay.
Yeah, and I think it's a fair point, right? We're not the solution for every meeting that's out there. And I kind of like to look at it at like the sort of like this either end of the spectrum, right? Like one end of the spectrum is let's spend $40 on a Zoom webinar account. And like, that's our event. It's not, but okay. And then the other end of the spectrum is the tools you were just talking about with just like these, I mean, I've seen some, and we partner with some companies who do it, like it's like 3D walk into the room, like physically walk into like some, and I'm like, that's really cool, but we don't do that. But and there's a price tag of tens of thousands of dollars that goes with those type of tools.
Yes.
We kind of sit in the middle is probably the easiest way to explain it. Like, because you can embed Zoom or Vimeo or whatever one of those tools you want to embed, you're basically enhancing those products, and you can do some basic things in Glisser, whether it's embedding one of our partners like Brella and Grip for networking, or utilizing things like our Q&A feed and actually turning it into a chat. Or we have an area called topic tracks, which can be, in essence, you could create, let's say you had sponsors and you had 5 sponsors. Well, you could create a sponsor track, and every one of the sponsors gets their own little Glisser room, and there's a Zoom meeting plugged in behind it. So I, as a virtual attendee, can enter, let's say Glisser's a sponsor, I can enter the Glisser room, I can see a Glisser salesperson on the other end, I can read their marketing collateral, watch their video, ask them questions. So I don't like to over position that as true. It's not an expo hall, it's not a trade show, it's not even a dedicated networking tool. But there are ways, if you know, that you can build certain components of it into Glisser, but I wouldn't call it the be all end all. It's more for folks where that's a nice to have, not a need to have, I'd say.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Thank you very much. Anybody else have any other questions before we wrap up for this morning? No? Well, thank you all for your time, and thank you to Fiona and Meaghan. That was really educational and really interesting. So we really appreciate you taking the time to work on that and put it together. And thank you for everybody that joined us. Like I say, really nice to see some familiar faces, and we really appreciate your interaction. We have recorded this, so there will be a copy of a recording I'll send that out to everybody. And I'll make sure we send out Fiona's and Meaghan's information as well. So if you want to follow up with them directly, feel free. And if you're able to join any of the other events we're doing this morning, this week they're all listed on the Anchor Collection website, just /events. And thanks for Chris for keeping us up to date on the chat with all the wonderful questions. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
That's great.
Thanks,
Thank
Chip.
Thank you.
And enjoy
nice
the
to meet
rest
you
of
Safe,
the day.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Cheryl.
Bye. Good to see you.